that thing, and we can get the tour moving along to much deeper history. So, quick demo on the thermal imaging. You should be able to see me in that camera, right? I'm the red, orange, and yellow guy. So this is the real deal. This is what firemen and mechanics use on the daily, all right? They attach this little guy to their phone, and this is how they save people, or they fix your car, or take it for what it's worth. Everything around me should be somewhere blue or black, all right? Those are your colder areas. Anything that takes shape or starts moving on its own that's blue or black, hopefully we will. But that's something that we should be looking at for certain. That's what we'll be looking for. You will get this full video back. There is a blue dot that's bouncing around on the screen as well that will show up in the recording. It gives you the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. So it kind of helps guide our eye into which areas we need to be looking at. So that's really helpful when we're analyzing the video. So I check this video for about every 5 minutes. I watch about a minute of it. So that way you guys can actually find more things for yourself. So this is a camera that doesn't always capture something, but we won't capture anything unless we're recording. So Jim, this one's going to go to you.
Okay.
You're going to keep the camera on your left all night long. We're going to do a few starts and stops throughout the night. When you start it back up again for record, you want to make sure you're in that horizontal position. YouTube doesn't know the flippies, and then they got to give out your phone number, and it's never fun. So just kind of take that for what it's worth.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Spirit boxes. We're going to be using several spirit boxes tonight. So spirit boxes are a way for us to communicate with the dead. Now what these actually do is they're radio sweepers. It's going to sweep through your FM radio stations at a very quick rate. On your TV shows and YouTube videos, it's usually the white static that you guys normally hear. And then your host will usually tell you some mumble jumble that he thinks he heard in the middle of it. We're going to be doing this in real time. The cool thing about these is that it records the entire session for us, and mine are slowed down on purpose. Your ears aren't trained to listen to white noise and my long history sessions all night long, and I'll be putting people to sleep. I slowed it down so that way the radio chatter sneaks through. What you're listening for on this is the DJs, the song lyrics, and the commercials. That's what I want you to hear. If you can make out any of those things, it's a 50-50 shot. I can tie it to the location of where we are, a person in history I'm talking about, or even something going on with one of us. It happens all the time. So the cool thing about this one, this is going to be the only one that records this session. We will use, I'm trying to think, we got 6 people here tonight. What's going on? Why is it not turning on? There we go. Just freaking out there for a moment. Luckily I have 2 of these. We would have had a backup. Now the person that gets this guy will actually also have a set of earbuds that I don't want back because earwax is gross. But they'll be the only person to be able to listen to this in real time, but everybody will get the recording back tomorrow. So the earbuds just kind of don't draw attention to ourselves by having this open speaker type spirit box. So, who's the chatty Cathy? Okay, this is going to go to you.
So
the only button you need to worry about is there's a volume button at the top. It's a wheel.
Okay. Okay.
You just set of earbuds, and my name will show you the whole. Blue or purple?
I'll go with blue.
I could hear him coming like a mile away.
I don't know. I'm be warm, be toasty. Maybe it's hypothermia. We don't know. No, I'm good. No, I'm actually okay.
All right, the next spirit box we're going to be using works a lot differently. This one's going to actually give us a word in the center of the screen from time to time. So, again, it's just going to pop up randomly. It's going to save all those words to a list. Last night's tour actually had 89 terms pop up. Here's what I'm going to tell you about this. This is a phone app. It is meant for games. It is meant for a hoax. 80% of it doesn't mean anything. It's the other 20% where I will give you the full list, highlight what I feel is relevant, person, place, one of us, tell you why, and then give you the backlink to verify the information. So, this one is super easy to use. That one's going to go to you. When I want to see the list, I'll ask you to hit the white box next to the word on the right, and then it'll bring up the entire list. So, and that's it. But I don't want to see every word that pops up. I'll come to you. Let's see here. We're going to give you one of these spirit boxes too, Emily.
All right.
So, yours will not record, so I'll rely on you of what you hear in real time. Like I'll be writing what you hear in real time down. And again, your volume button is at the top. It's the wheel.
Okay.
So you'll just kind of have to feel for that once you get you your earbuds.
left?
No, not yet.
Okay, EMF meters. These are an absolute necessity. You guys normally see the blinky ones on TV. Look like this guy, so I'm sure YouTube video guys usually use these. We're going to use this one tonight. I'm trying to think of how I'm going to play this out because there's 3 of you left.
Yeah, we can
I can't handle this much responsibility.
I love your honesty. I mean, you know.
Okay, simple device for you. Switch up if you want to.
There you go.
Yay!
All right.
That's hilarious.
So EMF meters, basically that's going to pick up any electromagnetic field. So cell phones, parking meters, things like that. If it goes off, that's the first thing we use to debunk what's actually happening around us. So again, yours doesn't go as high as this one. So this one has been very quiet, so we got to get you to open up a little bit. So Riley, was it? Did I get the name right? Look at me go. So Riley, yours going to do the same thing, only it's a little bit more accurate. Your top number, anything above 2.5, is equivalent to her second green dot. So we're always going to kind of measure things against each other. The bottom number is going to measure ambient temperature. So if anything comes up at a gym's video, we're going to be able to debunk that or prove it pretty quickly because it's measuring ambient temperature right here. The last thing that your device is going to have is motion. So if anything gets close to that antenna that I just pulled out, maybe get it turned on, it will go off. So if something gets close to you, it will go off. The closer it gets, the higher it's going to go. So again, we leave that off for now. Me and London will show you more about that at the first stop. Just leave the little flap open in the back. She's still quiet.
Hey Dad, if this makes it easier, I'll just join with the other teenagers.
Yes. I agree. We need London.
Wow.
So we already big favorites.
So early. What are we in? 10 minutes? Good job, London.
I need to go with my crowd.
Exactly. Yeah.
She can bring out the outgoingness in Riley.
All right.
And make sure she doesn't trip.
Birthday girl.
Focus on falling all day.
Then I forgot her name already.
Celia.
Celia.
Birthday
So Celia,
girl.
let's do a quick demo on this one so everybody knows what we're looking at here. You should not be able to see me in this camera. It should be pretty dark in there. I know it's a small screen, but we're going to turn on some lights. Notice the lights that I turned on you can't see with your own eyes. So the hope here is that we're going to capture something that we cannot see with our own eyes. We're working with full spectrum lighting here. With this particular camera, I don't always want a long recording because the files are giant. Yeah. So again, we're gonna do starts and stop with this one as well, and London will kind of help cue you in on where we're gonna go with that, and we're gonna show you more about that at the first location. All right, so everybody's geared up.
Hello.
So just to kind of recap on what you're actually gonna get back tomorrow morning, you're gonna get the full video back, the full audio from me. You're also gonna have, what in the world was that? So the spirit box recording over here, the word list. We're going to have a lot to go through, plus the video out of Sweet's here. So there's a lot going on here. So again, I'm just seeing me writing notes all night long. All right, so let's talk about why we started here. Is anybody freezing to death yet? Good, let's get moving. So, Big John.
I'm okay.
Big John's Tavern. This place used to be called Big John's Tavern way back in the day. We just reopened it as Big John's as kind of a revamp. It's named after a football player, Big John Kennedy. This was his bar. He used to sit in the back of the bar and let the bartender know if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink. And one night, 2 guys come in, and they're not old enough to drink. They're like all of you. So he let the bartender know, and the bartender threw him out. They left pretty angry. Came back the next night, and they tried to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on. He gets up, and he just starts beating the heck out of these guys, pounding them right into the floor. A couple of gunshots go off. John gets hit in the neck. The bullet lands in the wall, so it kind of just grazed him. He gets up after being shot, goes back to the bar, and he tells the bartender to get him another beer, get the 2 guys on the floor in ambulance. The irony of the story is that nobody died in that story. What's haunting the place is the bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. Even after the renovations, that means John's blood is still in this building. People that sit in the front of this bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous, or headache. I bring this up on purpose as kind of a heated warning. If anybody feels any of those symptoms, even in our cooler temperatures, I need to know immediately so we can move us all to safety. Not to scare anybody, but we did have somebody pass out on the tour just last night. So, it does happen. Our very last story and our very last stop, I will tell you of somebody that did pass out on the tour, but the only reason I tell that story is because it's relative to where we are and what actually the story has going on with it. So Joey's looking at me like, well, what the hell did I just sign up for? So let's not talk about our own health. I just have to put that warning out there because it can sometimes happen. We had a big earthquake here in 1886. If you didn't know that already from taking another Charleston tour, because every tour guide talks about it, you do now. The white mantle you see in the middle of the building also wraps around the front of the building on the east bay side. During that earthquake, a piece of it broke off, struck somebody in the back of the head, and apparently killed them, and they say you could see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street in the middle of the night. I say apparently and allegedly a lot with that story because I don't have any proof. Just one of those stories so Julie isn't thinking about getting sick on the tour or putting the kids in danger. So, it's just a great segue. Are you guys ready to go ghost hunting now? All right, let's go do this. Yes?
Does it matter that it's almost a full moon?
So we are in the first half of the year. So usually, and things are shifting as I'm sure you could see, like even with the weather patterns. At this point, am I expecting things to get a little bit stronger in the first half of the year with a full moon? Yes, but on the back half of the year, it's a newer moon. So it kind of shifts. I just have to watch the way the quarter plays out. And I do kind of gauge that stuff as I look at everybody's evidence for one specific month. Because I do review it at the end of the month and kind of see like where the patterns were. So if I start to see things were shifting and went to a first quarter moon or so forth and so on, I kind of have to pay attention to that. But we are close to a full moon. Last month's full moon wasn't such a great night. It was active, but it wasn't like, oh my God, look at all this great stuff. So, and at the end of the tour, guys, I will tell you if it was kind of a lighter night, if it was an average night, or if it was a holy cow moment of the things that we're going to capture tonight. So we'll kind of see. And also keep in mind, the reason why I gave you guys all of the data back is that only 40% of the things that go on during an investigation are caught in real time. The other 60% comes out of research. And that's just from experience of being out here 6 nights a week. So, not to mention other locations that I go to. All right, now are we ready to go something? Was there other questions? All right. No, you're fine. That's why we're here. You're supposed to ask questions. All right, let's go do this.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so
When they ask me,
the entire time with me should be thought of as kind of a ghost hunting 101 class. So I lied. You are in class, girls. So with that said, this is your level 1. So this part is going to be very easy. We're not going to spend a lot of time here. Again, this is just for me and London to show you more tactics based on your devices. Behind me stands the red barn lot. This is where we keep the horses for your carriage rides. So this is just one company. The horses are still inside, which is why we use earbuds with the spirit boxes. They don't like the white noise. The history here is really simple. This is the same red barn that held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. That's it. That's all I got. 1860s to 1920s, roughly. Let's talk about spirit boxes, because we have, how many in play tonight? 3. So, spirit boxes, this is not, everybody wants to ask the same question. This is not TV or YouTube. Is somebody here? If somebody says no, that means somebody's here, right? So, we're going to stay away from yes or no questions all night long. We want specifics. You all are here for some odd reason to find paranormal proof, whatever your reasoning might be, but we're not going to get it out of yes or no questions. So you're going to ask questions you already know the answers to here, just so you get used to listening to your devices, like what color is the big red barn? Obviously you're listening and looking for the color red. Song lyrics and DJs don't always have the color red in their vocabulary at a specific moment. So, what color is the big red? If you think about other things like fire truck, blood, heart, cardinal, all of those things are specifically red. That would be an acceptable answer of what color is the big red barn. However, most of the night I'm going to require 2 pieces of information to verify what's actually going on. For example, Julie has the word art on her word list. Emily over here has the number 40 that she heard. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. Do y'all see where I have to put these clues together? Most of the night, we're going to be dealing with people from colonial times in the 1800s. So with that being said, there's a lot of the same names, different people. So a lot of Georges, a lot of Charleses. We need to know who the heck we're talking to. Like, that's kind of the whole gist of this. So with that said, I want the spirit boxes to kind of spread out a little bit. A couple of rules when we're in spaces like this where there's other vehicles. Vehicles, well, people don't like their vehicles being filmed. So those of you with cameras, keep your cameras off of vehicles. Like, you don't want to be pointing straight at them. And the other piece is we don't even want to go near vehicles at this point. So we're going to hit one more space after this one that's going to have quite a few vehicles in it. We're just going to do everything we can to stay away from those vehicles. Just imagine if it was one of your cars and somebody's over there filming it. It just looks kind of odd and funny. So I keep the people with cameras with me so I can show them a few more tactics. London, I want you to start with the EMF Meter to show how that REM pod works. But spirit boxes, I want you to get used to listening how those actually kind of cycle through and directly ask questions to see what we can actually find out. Like what color is the big red barn or what's inside the barn. These are answers you already know. So let's kind of get you used to that while I work with the cameras, and then we'll move on away from football players and ponies. We'll deep dive into some history.
The second light is like flashing. It's off again. But like,
I've been watching, I usually watch that device firsthand just because, first off, it's visible, it's lights.
Yeah.
But it's easy to read. Like you have a little bit of going on there, but we're also somewhat close to the building, so I do want you to kind of move around and kind of see where those different things, like last night that thing was in the red in this location. There's no wiring underneath of us to make it do that.
Right.
So, and again, if it was coming from the building, as you got closer to the barn, it would start to get higher and higher and higher. So that's something you should probably test.
yeah.
So, could possibly be coming, but then it stopped. So,
It's red now.
now it's red. It's all over the map. So, I will take notes on what your readings are as well, the same thing as on the EMF Meter. But cameras, stick with me. Spirit boxes and everybody else, go ahead and spread out and start asking questions. All right, so cameras. I do want you to try two things. Obviously, you got this. I left you the center crosshairs as well, so you can measure something directly. There's center crosshairs right there in the middle. So if you need to measure something directly, you can just move the camera. But I want you to try to keep a person in view because our skin temperature is going to be the warmest thing out here. And that'll kind of give us an array of color. Because if you point it right at the wall, it's going to bleed out.
Yeah.
You're also going to try to keep the sky out of view if possible. There's going to be some places we go to tonight, it's impossible. The reason why I say that is because that blue dot automatically goes because there's no surface. It doesn't know what to measure. Okay. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through things. Again, both cameras, no pointing directly at cars. If somebody's going to their vehicle, yours is a lot like you could just casually hold a cell phone, but yours you're just going to drop. So like you're not doing anything at all.
Would I do anything like on an Apple phone where I can pinch or pull? No, just leave it.
Just let it run.
Just point.
Yep.
Gotcha.
I don't even think it has that capability.
Okay.
I've never even.
I didn't know
tried
if it did or not. I was just asking.
After, I'll give you the cue to stop. That's the red square.
Okay.
Like you're recording. Yours starts recording at the beginning because I want people to have that. Basically the tutorial on what they're watching.
Right.
And I don't, the tutorial here is pretty simple, so that one's got a lot more techniques to it.
Okay.
So, but yeah, get used to some of the different surfaces in here. You have wood, you have asphalt, metal, just play around with it, see how those temperatures move around. And again, we won't capture anything unless you're recording.
Gotcha.
Celia, your camera, you're working with two different light sources. You have a short range, which is right here, and you have a long range, which is up here. The long range is going to stay on all night long. In the event somebody gets too close, you see how my hand kind of, bleached out? Turn that one off. So that way your long range is still working for you, even at a different angle. Because technically, I'm not looking for things in the purple circle that you're staring at. I'm looking for things in the darkness. I want something to kind of swoop through or an orb to move around, things that shouldn't be there, and basically the light is going to reflect it. So, you could see me, obviously, because I can reflect light, no matter what type. I'm looking for things that shouldn't be able to reflect light. So
you just press the record button?
Yep, that's it.
Okay,
And it's Velcroed on there, so it's not going to fall off.
Love.
So, you're good to go on that. Your battery will die at least once tonight.
Okay.
So, just so you know. Your record button, when we do want to get you started, is this guy right here. You'll press it down until it starts flashing. Okay. I'll tell you to, after the next piece of history that we go through in the next location, I'll say, Celia, go ahead and get your video started. And again, you're going to see weird cycles with it. The files on this are huge. So after 9 minutes and 26 seconds, you'll see it flicker, and the timer will start over. It's just making a new file. I still splice all of your videos together, so you only have two videos to watch, one from the thermal, one from the full spectrum. But just kind of keep that in mind. The biggest thing with you is nice slow movements. Don't point at anybody's car, that kind of thing. And just so you know what this guy does, this is night vision. We don't use that because it draws attention from the other tours.
Yeah.
The other tours are always trying to sway you guys of what to do and things like that, and you're working with me tonight, not them. And they have no clue because they don't do equipment. So, but with that said, have some fun with it. Normally I would break out some lasers with it if we had a full party of 10, so that way you can actually see the lasers through the camera. They're very, very vivid, and we look for things to fly through the lasers. So I didn't bring them out tonight just because we had a smaller party, and lasers do draw a lot of attention. So everybody's always like, what the hell? Yeah, they're very dangerous. They get making a lot of trouble.
8.7.
8.7?
Yes, not anymore, but I was like right here and it was 8.7.
It's yellow. Nope, nope, not anymore. Not green.
Oh, now it's a 4.
No, and the speed of white noise started speeding up.
I don't know.
Enjoy sleeping next
Do you want to hear it? Sorry, Maddie. We can switch beds if you want.
If your soul is
Okay.
trapped, just know I want help. Like I'm listening.
Stop.
It's okay. You'll have fun there. In the mirror world.
All right.
Enjoy.
Are you good to go on your, you know how to use it? You know how to stop?
And all the times I look in some ears. So I like you'll be like your confidence. She said it's she doesn't know if it means anything.
At this point, we're going to go learn some real history. So, how's your word list coming?
Okay. In what way? Actually,
Go ahead and hit the white button. Let me see what you got going on. Because what I'll do is I'll kind of flip through it and I'll see if any of those terms, like we have stadium, which is generally a football thing, but it's kind of weak. So it's pretty vague. I'm not going to put any, like, oh my God, just said stadium. Like, I'm not that guy. If it said big and then John, I would be like, hell yes, you got some good stuff. But the circle back is to get back to the main screen, top right.
No,
I love how your mom
That's it. Those are your 2 buttons.
I know.
All right, let's go learn some real history. Let's do this.
And I'm just listening to words.
Yep. And anything you hear, no matter how silly you think it might be, let me know what it is.
I swear I thought I heard the word carriage earlier.
Carriage.
But I guess New Kids on the Block came on too, so I got excited with that.
Your age is spilling over.
Oh, yes, yes.
Mainly coming from you, sorry.
Hey. Tell me if I get any friends following me.
Oh, they're warm. Yeah, it's bright. It's the warmest temperature.
Can you make sure that the word hold is not on her screen anywhere? Just the fact that she hasn't had a reading yet.
Me? Does it mean anything when it's redder?
It's just the aesthetics of
Okay.
the app.
Oh, okay. Ooh. Not because they were noisy or anything.
It's not on hold?
I'm in astronomy.
Nope.
Are you
All
a
right.
ghost?
Yeah.
Welcome to another beautiful site of Charleston. Yes, I brought you to another parking lot. This place used to be something. Something important, actually. So this used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion site. So their mansion actually sat in the front of this lot. Eliza's garden was lined up with the Five Church Restaurant and came all the way across. And we're standing in the slave and servant quarters for the home. So, who the heck were these people? Charles and Eliza. They had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Charleses. You see why I normally need 2 different clues? The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. We're not in school, and I don't want to talk about politics, so we're going to move on. I'll also point out for you Spirit Box teams, I'm not going to be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the red barn. You're going to get the answers from your Spirit Box. Charles and Eliza got married when Eliza was pretty young. According to today's standards, I want to point that out. It's not colonial time standards from when she came. It's actually according to our standards today. Charles was over double her age when they got married. So you can ask when we, obviously separate how old each of them were, and hopefully you get the right answer. They got married because Eliza's father over in England thought he was dying, and he wanted to see all of his kids one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so instead she got married. This is 1744. There's no such thing as citizenship or green cards or anything like that for weird marriages, because we weren't even a country yet. So she did marry him out of love. They were married a short time before his death, and she did remain a widow, if that shows you her loyalty to her husband. A lot of people like to poke around was, what actually happened with the marriage. It was out of love, believe it or not. I know an anomaly today, but it's the way it goes. So, with that said, Dad got better, so Eliza was correct. He wasn't dying right away, and he started sending her apologetic gifts to this site. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes her blue jeans blue. Celia's got it on tonight. She's the only one. So, London, you're not wearing blue today.
No, I'm not.
So, but that's how we use it today. and it started right here. And keep in mind, indigo was already in this country, but she didn't know how to keep it going. So she had to learn from her slaves how to keep it cultivated, because obviously it doesn't stay warm here all the time. Our slaves here were from the Gullah culture. Basically, their agriculture was straight from Africa. So they knew how to keep it going. They taught her how, and she moved it over to Mount Pleasant to another plantation. So once she had it going, she calls her dad up and says, hey, rice plantations are going downhill. We can make a killing with this indigo. Give me some contacts to sell these people, some indigo. Now we have an international businesswoman during colonial times, something that's absolutely unheard of. So her career started right where you're standing. Let's get to the weird stuff about Eliza, because that's why you guys are all here. Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles, back to back. So, first Eliza dies. 6 months later, he marries this Eliza. The irony here is that both Elizas have a maiden name, the name they had before they were married, that starts with the letter L. Ask which Eliza we're speaking with, and hopefully you'll get the maiden name. You can ask their ages when they got married. Obviously, I gave you that one already. You can ask what happened to the mansion. It's not here anymore. So, obviously, something happened, and then you can ask when that tragedy happened. I'm giving you Spirit Box teams a clue that it was a tragedy. So take that for what it's worth. Eliza's death. Ask anything you want to. She's really, really open. Eliza, how old were you when you died? What did you die from? Where are you buried? And what U.S. president was a pallbearer at your funeral? So a U.S. president, at his own request, wanted to be a pallbearer and take her to her grave out of respect for her. Find out who that president was. Very specific questions. Keep in mind, all of these questions, they're not yes and no questions. One last thing you can dive into, but I ask you to tread lightly, are the children. I told you there's at least one. His name was Charles. He was signed of the Constitution. There's more. Ask how many, get their names, leave it alone. The reason why I say that is because there is a tragedy among those children that if we poke the bear too heavily, all activity will stop, including any EMF on the meters that we have going on over there. That's going pretty wild right now. That thing will go down to green, and we won't have any other activity the rest of the night. I've seen it dozens of times. So, have some fun with this. We are going to spread out. Video cameras, you both know to, obviously stay away from vehicles. We're not going to go in between vehicles either, because some of the workers around here like to go to their cars for their breaks. So we're just going to stay away from the cars that actually have people in them. Have some fun. Turn your spirit boxes up loud and proud. Let's see what we can capture. You should be following the 2 EMF meters. So Riley and Christine, you should be following those 2 to kind of see where the hot spots are. Christine, yours is probably going to go off through the whole duration. If it starts here at the beginning, it's going to go nuts almost the entire time we're here. It's a guarantee. All right. Yeah, go ahead and get yours started. Let's have some fun. Let's spread out. Let's see what we can find out. Nice slow movements out of you. Is this what you guys were hoping for?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
From your text, I figured as much.
Yes, sir.
There's no other tour that does the extent that that I go through here.
We did a few years back. We did one in what's a little town in Virginia that we have a condo there, but they have it's a Civil War train station hospital there.
Okay.
And it was pretty cool. We got a lot of activity, and we used some equipment then, spirit boxes, flashlights, some different things, and no infrared cameras. They had some EMF meters, some spirit boxes, so it was pretty cool. Really cool. We really enjoyed that.
Already?
Yeah. 24 seconds in.
Wow. So when it happens, I have to just pop the battery and just kind of reset it. Wow. So last night it froze on me 4 times.
Oh, gee. A little chilly.
And I keep it in the warm bag. You know what I mean? So, and I noticed, like, the earlier we start it, the more it's going to freeze up. That's why I don't start it right away now. And we haven't had this camera for very long. It's been a few months, but it's giving us a little bit of trouble here and there, but nothing drastic. Just keep me posted on how it's running. You're on recording now.
Oh,
We did a walking tour in Gettysburg, the battlefields, and that place is crazy.
See, I was there, was it 2 summers ago now. And I usually just have my gear running on me. Like, I don't walk around like the guys on TV and shit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that was in a pocket, the camera hanging out.
Low profile.
Yeah, very low.
Just for your own.
Right. Yes. And it's a podcast, so I mean, I have to,
Oh,
you know,
you
it's...
have your... Yes.
I'm back.
What are you doing to my stuff?
I just want to talk to my mom.
Oh, good. Did you like go in the same path? Did you like walk in the exact same place?
I don't think so. I don't know. I kind of just wanted to talk to her. I was like, any fun words? And she said, nope. And then it froze. Should I just like stay away from people? Or?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you don't even have to watch this thing all night. Just hold it. Just, make us a nice video to watch later on. And it froze already, 4 seconds in. I wanted to test it before I popped it back in the camera case. I'm going to put a different battery in there. So if I can have you hold the frame, that'd be great. I carry 5 batteries.
Extra prepared.
Boy Scout, for sure.
I was a Girl Scout for 1 year. Yeah, I just froze for like
Everything
the 3rd
keeps
time.
freezing on it. So I was telling her it did freeze up 4 times last night, and it
We're about to beat the record.
Well, I've seen it a lot worse. There have been times where I just put it away, just because it was just acting up when we first got it, and we really didn't have the full gist on it yet. So let's see if the new battery will do anything different. Okay, seem to be good. And yours, because it's in the waterproof box, you'll have very muffled sound. So his records audio, yours pretty much I don't even listen to it.
Okay.
I just watch it. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Fingers crossed. But I do a lot of research for other tours, just to stay on top of what everybody else is doing.
Sure.
The only other tour I found that's close to what I'm doing here is a tour in Savannah.
Okay.
They're called Truth and Evidence. So they hand out a few, they don't go to the extent of the FLIR Pro. They have a couple of cheaper versions for thermal imaging cameras, and then like some K2 meters, and that's it. And then you have to rent them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a big money scam.
Yeah.
Like I'd much rather you guys just have some fun.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I may have to remember that. Go back and listen to the recording because we're going to do Savannah. So we love doing these. We've done these when we go on vacation. This is kind of our thing.
Yeah.
We love it.
Sorrel Weed House is probably the most commercial haunted location there. Like they welcome you. They want guys like me coming down doing investigations. Of course, they charge for you to spend the night kind of thing.
Right.
But they really pride themselves on we're going to show you some creepy stuff, and their Facebook page is all from guests. Like it's all posts from things that they caught while they were there.
And I'm not necessarily I'm into the creepy or demonic. I mean, just anything, any kind of contact. Because one of the things in Virginia that I found just so while we were in a room upstairs and they were just asking questions, kind of like what you were talked about.
Sure. And
it was just the feelings. I mean, just kind of the mood of the room changes. Sure. And then as after a little temperature drop and the mood of the room changed, the fragrance of a perfume.
Yep. The smells are huge.
And I was going to say Gettysburg was the same way. We could smell campfire. Nobody's burning anything where we are.
We had a weird smell in, where were we? Little Round Top? Inside whatever that little, lookout post thing was. I had a weird smell in there, and I could not put my finger on it. My wife smelled it, but my father-in-law couldn't. So it's weird.
I think the big thing that I've already learned on this trip to Charleston, we've been here before, and we've done the dungeon tour and stuff like that. But how much Revolutionary War was fought here? Everybody thinks Civil War, but really there was more Revolutionary War.
Well, a lot of people associate us with the Civil Wars because of something.
Right, because of the first shots, right.
And you start going back as far as what we're talking about here.
Right. Yeah, 100 years before the Civil War.
Yeah. Let me follow up with these other spirit box folks and see what we're hearing. All right, what are we hearing? What are we seeing? We're still recording. It's still good. I see that.
Heard absolutely.
Okay.
It went red a few times over here, but now it's green again.
Okay. Riley, what about yours? Nothing?
Shoved? Did anyone get shoved to death?
No. Shoved to death? Is that a thing?
Well, shove them off of a balcony and they die to their plunge.
Hey, if you die real quick, don't worry though, because you can still talk to your ghost. Did that ever
purple is... So if somebody asked what her favorite color was, which people often do, they'll go rogue with the questions and not always use what I give them.
You asking questions?
Purple is always the answer that pops
Good.
up. Like, and it's not
Well,
even,
make sure
it
you
goes
let them know
directly
what
to
you're
them.
hearing.
So if somebody, like,
Yeah,
I'll
but I don't know if
ask
it's just
when
like
we
me
read
hearing stuff.
if
or
somebody
So
asks
you
what
know,
their
you'll
color
decipher
was,
that for you.
because normally the answer is purple.
Okay.
It's not blue like everybody thinks for the indigo. It's purple. So that's pretty much the only thing that pops up in my head when I see your list. And it might be just a circumstance at this point. So, anything coming up out of yours?
I don't know so much. It was hard because I can't tell what's
not
actually DJ radio talk or if I'm actually catching, or when asking questions again I hear 17, but I'm like, is that just part of what I'm hearing on the radio, or do you know what I mean?
Well, I want you to hear what's coming through the radio.
I do, but nothing to the questions I'm asking did it seem to make sense.
And a lot of times you have to remember, I'm here 6 nights a week. She knows what questions we're going to ask. So, and just like I told Julie over here, like she has the word purple on there. If somebody went rogue and said, what's your favorite color? I can't prove it, but the answer always comes up as purple. You have the number 17 that popped up. That's the century that she lived in, so 1700s. So we might have the other half of that number if somebody else asked, when were you born, when did you die, you know, those kind of things.
Gotcha.
So do you see how I literally have to piece
it's a puzzle.
things. Yeah, it's a giant puzzle every single night. I have no idea what's going to happen out here tonight. I could tell the same stories every night, but I don't know what you guys are going to hear.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen with these EMF meters. I don't know what's going to show up on the cameras.
Gotcha.
So that's the fun thing for me, is it's always different. We can have a spectacular night, and other nights it's kind of like, okay guys, this was light. I hope you learned something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I shove so much history into this. So that way at least you walk away, at bare minimum, to get all the history of the locations. When you look at spaces like this going, it's a freaking parking lot. But really, think about the mansion that was here. You know, and I'm going to show them a picture of what that looked like before we part ways. That way you get the image in your head of where you're standing. So, and especially when I have young groups like this, I love it. Because if I start doing a picture-esque piece of it, they're going to be like, okay, now it makes sense. Now it's clicking. But of course, London is leading the way with the laughter and giggling.
John Madison. Is that even the right era? Was that the right era? He wasn't about to yell.
They're using London as Google.
No, it's just like I would thinking of like president. Would you go to a concert?
No, I was thinking like presidential sounding names, and I saw like a bunch of Led Zeppelin.
I'm sorry. Your presidential sounding name's Led Zeppelin.
So are we hearing anything? Are we seeing anything?
It's yellow again, and it's gone again.
We're both Capricorns. You know,
Relative to the space we're in.
exactly.
But have we heard anything on your end? Nothing at all? The giggling is kind of overpowering it?
No, if someone else wants to listen to it, I'm happy to share.
You want to switch with me?
Yes, of course.
Well, there's 2 earbuds there, so you guys can
Maybe y'all
actually...
can both listen.
I'll do this one.
I've seen that before, too.
I'll put one in. I'll help you.
Wait, no, if we're doing it like that, then we just...
Oh, good. The battery to swap out seemed to do the trick. She's still recording. That's good. I carry 5 different batteries for that
I
camera.
don't blame you because sometimes the batteries go out just because.
And I carry anything that has regular batteries in it.
Oh, it's red.
I always have a full stock.
Tell me that she's dead.
I have a full stock of batteries all the way around, but most of the stuff is rechargeable. So
So you just never know.
but I keep everything fully charged. Like when I get home and I start uploading everything goes straight to a charger, and I don't take it off until before I leave the house. So when I pre-pack the bag,
Sometimes, even though you fully charge it,
yep,
it
happens
doesn't
all the time.
always.
Especially when we're, I used to use a digital camera through the tour, and it would die all the time, even though it was fully charged. And I carried several batteries, and it would kill several batteries. So it's just, I don't know if it's a weaker electronic because it's an older technology, because it is a digital camera. You know, it's not this, obviously higher tech stuff that we have now, but it would die all the time. With rechargeable, like nickel metal hydride batteries, like I got to put the battery in the charger, not the camera. So, like, it's take that battery out of it, and it's like one of those flat back batteries that you have to put on a charger. So I carry 3 of those and 5 for the full spectrum camera, just because it gets a little crazy.
Is it leaving red again? Well, when I say I'm stupid, it goes red every time.
It froze again.
All right, that's probably our cue. So, since we're not hearing a whole lot on that spirit box, have we heard, you didn't hear any words while we were here at all?
I haven't heard anything since we switched off.
Okay.
Maddie, what about here?
You heard nothing? Yeah, lots of chatting amongst you. You already told me what you heard. Any other words pop up on your end?
No. Yeah.
So you guys are making my job a whole lot harder in the morning.
I love you.
Good job. Make your job harder.
All right, so we definitely had a 20 to 25 milligauss on the K2.
Wait, didn't you say to tell you if it goes to 2?
2.5 or higher.
Okay, it just went to 2 for a second.
Okay. No other numbers came up out of that thing? Out of the Melby?
I've been holding it.
Has anybody else seen?
It would flash to like really big numbers, but then it'd go back to 0 like a second later.
And you never saw what any of those numbers were?
There was like a lot of it was 9. There was like an 18. There was a 12. 4.5.
That's the stuff I need to know. Like, that's what you should have been telling me.
We ended up giving it to the choir.
0, so it was like I didn't know if it was valid.
No, that's good stuff. That's what we actually want out of it. That device is way more accurate than the one with the blinky lights.
Wow.
All right, so let's go back to the back of the lot. So in case anybody needs to go to their vehicle or move in and out of here, I'll give you guys the answers to those questions. Your battery already froze up. London, do you know how to do the battery pump on that? Maybe you should learn. You can stop your video and kind of give it a break.
Yeah.
So the reason why I asked for a list of names is because people used to live here. Yeah, it wasn't very great conditions either, because the other side of the wall was across the street on East Bay. So basically where those buildings are was where the other wall was. No, Patrick. So the smell of low tide would have been coming through here often. Yes.
Yeah.
I will survive.
You put so hard now.
So the smell of low tide, if you haven't smelled it before, is not a very pleasant smell, especially on a daily life. So the people that lived here were living shotgun houses, so little tiny 1 to 2 room houses. That was it. So what's that? Kind of. Basically, I'd be standing on somebody's front doorstep, as close to this wall as I am. So with that said, there was a whole list of names that I look for, and I normally hear the names Benjamin and John. So Benjamin and John both lived here in 1801. I know that doesn't sound very significant, but that's 2 out of 5 people that I hear every 6 to 7 weeks. We're on the 5-week part of the loop, roughly, so 4 to 5 weeks. So every 6 to 7 weeks, I get those 2 names over and over again. The reason I have behind that is because you're walking on Belgian blocks. These Belgian blocks are made strictly of granite, which means anything that comes straight from the earth, like granite or limestone, is said to hold on to the consciousness of memories. So the fact that we're basically watching a movie, a 6 to 7 week long movie, and we get the same names over and over and over again, is not any kind of coincidence that I've seen. The Freemasons also had a Masonic lodge here, which is why this is called Lodge Alley. This is Lodge Alley Inn, so every hotel has some type of ghost haunting. None of them give me free rooms to prove it, so hopefully this summer I'll be hitting a lot of the haunted rooms for podcast episodes to see if it's real or not.
You have podcasts?
It's on Spotify?
It's on everything.
I'll show you the website when we get
Yeah. So, the Freemasons, we get a lot of terms related to them as well. So Mason, brick. Last night we had the word triangle, which is somewhat relative. It was kind of a stretch. We didn't have anything else to solidify. But we've also heard the word Illuminati show up here several times. Yeah. Very weird stuff happens down here. They did do an archaeological dig here, unlike the Pinckney Mansion site. They found some of these people's clothing and tools and silverware. That's how they were able to classify them as lower class. Lots of fires happen down here. Obviously, we're in the town now, so things get a little hairy. There's a lot of mixed details. So this isn't like we're going to stay here for a long period of time. We're going to walk through the rest of this alley. You're going to continue filming until we reach the end of the alley. Then you're going to shut off your videos because we'll be cutting through a neighborhood. I'm literally taking you right to the edge of where tour guides are allowed to take you. We're going to go to another alley. However, I cannot take you through it because I've been booted out of it. So you guys have to remember what tour you're on. It is residential at the other end. So again, the room that is haunted here is room 304. I think I told you that already. Now that you have it, you can look for that while you guys are poking around your hotel.
And why?
So there's no real why. None of these stories out of these hotels have a true why, or they have some myth or legend that they give. With this one, I think it's just the cleaning staff has a lot of stories, so if you can find some of the cleaning staff, just stop them and say, what rooms are haunted? And they will all tell you stories. So just kind of take, I actually had some, because this is a blue-green, so I had some of their salespeople on a tour about a year and a half ago, and they're like, oh yeah, it's haunted. Like, we work here. Like, we know it's haunted. Go to room 304.
I Yeah, do you have like the maids or something on the podcast, or
would I interview them?
Yeah.
Probably. I would get the story from them afterwards. When I do my own investigations, I like to go in blind.
304 to our left.
It's right across the hall.
Across the hall.
So I don't want to know the story ahead of time. All I want to know is that there's a possibility of something occurred here, whether it's deathly or not. So that way I can just run my equipment. Yes.
I have a question. So if there was an archaeology dig here, did they have to like rebuild the room after?
They didn't dig up the whole thing. They took out a portion of it.
Got it.
And then obviously they re-cemented it. Do I know exactly where? If I had to guess, it would probably be at the other end because there is houses over there where people moved away from it. It was like a step up. So you got out of your shotgun house and you moved into a regular house around the corner of stage.
You said where and wherever came.
that's sassy.
Wherever. So I don't know exactly where they dug, but again, if I were to have my guess, it would probably be closer to where they would have moved out of. So, or I would, either way, honestly, because that's going to probably see more of the fire and that kind of thing. So, take it for what it's worth.
Just told me to trip.
7?
That's 7 again.
I had Free Fallen by Tom Petty.
And you had Trip.
Yeah, it told me to go Trip, so I don't know.
Number 7.
Maybe it's telling you your future.
Let's go talk about the number 7 and that stuff.
Boots. You know what? It hasn't been a problem, but I said no socks today, and it was a bad decision.
No bone
Socks and
I was
leather.
wearing tights. I thought it would be cool. You're the one that did the weather search. Yeah. Oh, at least you're wearing tights. They're really tight. They're police line. I don't.
Oh, cobblestones are rough.
Mm-hmm. Did you get gun?
Huh?
Did you hear gun?
Yeah, I did. See, sometimes I can't go, did it say gun or gum? Like, this is not a good job for me. Because I hear stuff and I'm like, is it relevant?
You can trade with me if you want me to do that.
Huh?
I'll trade with you if
Oh,
you
no,
want.
no. I wouldn't be good at that either.
You would.
Is Philadelphia Alley. So it used to be called Dueler's Alley. That's where our duels used to occur.
We heard gun
You heard gun?
twice.
Nice. So we're already on it. It's good. So the reason why we stop here is because we still get a lot of evidence even standing this far away. Now we are allowed to go down there, but only halfway. So when we're doing an investigation, it's almost pointless. So I'd rather just let the other tours do their thing and we can stay over here from afar because we still get quite a bit of evidence. So let's go through the story. Philadelphia, by the way, we named it that because dueling became illegal and stupid. So we named it after a city that helped us out of one of our many fires I told you about earlier. The duel that we talk about it actually happened. We can prove it. So that's the reason why we talk about it. There's a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves here because his fiancée, Amanda, just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney handling that money for her, and he tells her to get rid of the doctor, that he's just after her cash. So, didn't know if there was something funny going on. You had a quizzical look on your face. So I was like, what's he doing? But anyway, so to prove that he's not just after Amanda's money, he moves to Charleston. And he comes down here, and a coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. So it wasn't a very good start to his stay in Charleston. Somebody walking by sees what's going on. His name is Ralph Isaacs. You guys are ghost hunting with spirit boxes, so initials mean something. Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from. Ralph Isaacs, Rhode Island. We always need the secondary clues so we know who it belongs to. But he says, dude, you don't want to stay here. This guy's going to try to kill you and take all your money. So he says, I got some friends at 59 Church Street where you can rent a room and, that way you could be safe. That's right up the street, which is where we're headed next, close to that area. So the two become friends, the doctor rents the room, and his practice starts to take off. He's making his own money. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor because Amanda's moving down soon. He's a very happy guy. Yes, he literally whistled all the time. Every haunted city you go to will have a whistler, I promise you. Ours is a doctor. So Ralph and the doctor become friends and they go see plays together, but they can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes so much more money. That's the way the hierarchy went. He gets better tickets. So with that, they talk about these plays on the way home. One night they go see William III from Shakespeare. They start arguing over the new actress. Ralph thought she was horrible. The doctor thought she was great. It gets a little heated when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée, Amanda, back home. It gets pretty ugly. They go their separate ways. Ralph is from here. He has friends at the newspaper. He goes and puts an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees that ad, and, you know, obviously the big insults that were in there, and rebuttals with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. Let's go settle this. So somebody's going to die, right? So they come down and they take their 20 paces. They turn. The doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. He just wanted to make a point and show that he had the courage and bravery to show up for the fight, which is often what happened at a duel, just so y'all know. A lot of people think it's always kill, kill, kill. I saw the movie. It's good.
It's Hamilton all over again.
I know, right? So, Ralph still has his one bullet. Sorry, Jim. He puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. So the doctor doesn't die either. He's picked up and carried home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. Keep in mind, he's a doctor. He probably tried to heal himself by bleeding out the bullet. So, they say as you walk through this alley, you can hear the whistles from the doctor. The fact that we heard the word gun twice already, that's 2 guns. Makes sense. We had the number 7 show up on the word list earlier. The doctor's birthday, July 7th, 7-7.
We just had the word wayward son come up. So
Wayward son.
That's it. That's some like.
That's crazy because Kansas Wayward, Carry On My Wayward Son was just playing a little bit ago.
You guys are listening to live radio stations.
Yeah.
So it's not coincidental that you guys both heard the same song. Because you're
And I also thought Kansas had a song called Amanda, and you mentioned her.
There's also some country song that's playing that I can't understand the accent, so I kind of feel bad.
One of the reasons why we got kicked out of this alley, and London will always remember this day for the rest of her life, because she was there. The day before Thanksgiving, I have a pretty full tour. At the end of this alley are bricks that are sun-dried from slave children. I always point it out as a piece of history, because there's a full handprint and fingerprints at the end of the alley from those slave kids. I treat those the same way I treat a grave, with respect, and you're not going to get any EMF or spirit box activity out of them. However, my guests always want to try. It's right outside the gentleman's dining room window, because yes, there was a mansion at the end of this alley. The gentleman came out of his house screaming and yelling, and yes, technically we weren't supposed to be there, and we never went back. I rerouted the tour to come up this way, and so that way we could talk about female pirates. Otherwise, we would have went all the way through the alley and down to another haunted location, which we don't go to anymore. The reason why I tell you all of this is because the last story I'm going to tell you, which there's a lot of detail, is very relevant to the dates of when me and London got kicked out of that alley with all the gizmos and gadgets you guys are holding. The dates are very relevant. It was almost like it was supposed to happen on the day that it happened. So, we'll talk about that more when we get there. Have you had any other words come up on your word list?
Some people are happy.
Allison? Nope.
Well, they're with their wedding.
Oh, true.
Nope.
Single lady, Beyonce.
Pretty much it?
Marty.
All right. Let's move on. Let's go see some of the myths and legends of Charleston, and then we're going to deep dive into a female pirate as our big hoopla hurrah at the end.
Hoopla hurrah?
Hoopla hurrah.
Sure.
I'm writing that one down. English major. I get to make up my stuff.
Never.
Did I hear her name was Sugar? Her name was Sugar.
You know that song?
See, you hear appointment? Does that mean doctor?
Yeah, doctor appointment. You can call me Al.
Need a match?
No, but I need my earbud back.
I didn't get mine either.
They're like, All right, any words pop up that you guys have heard, seen, anything like that? What was it?
Resolution.
Nope. Nothing for that. Anything on your end? You guys hear anything?
She heard appointment.
Heard appointment, but I mean, like, I don't know if that has anything to.
You can call me Al.
Guilty contacts. That's what we got.
Got nothing for that either. Alright, so I'll tell the normal stuff. There's literally like 15 stories on this corner, so I kind of wait to see if anything is going to direct me on which story to tell. Otherwise, I have the standard go-tos. So first and foremost, behind you is the wall to Philadelphia Alley that we just talked about with the duels. There's a doorway in the middle of that wall back there. In the event there was a loser, meaning the dead guy, that was a shortcut to get over to the cemetery. So that alley didn't go all the way through, so instead of walking all the way down to Queen Street and coming around, they could just cut through the courtyard. So I like to point that out because I call it the death gate. The doctor never went through it, by the way. So every tour ends at that cemetery gate over there. A couple of reasons. There's two different sides to the St. Philip Cemetery. This is the eastern side. If you belong to the church and you die here, you're from here, then you can be buried on this side. So if you belong to the church and you're not from here, you get buried on the other side across the street. So your 7th Vice President, John Calhoun, is buried across the street. So the number 7 is relevant in several ways over here. So
Is number 90 relevant?
how you doing, guys?
Is number 90 relevant? It's popped up twice.
No, but remind me to write it down. I'll look into it. Again, I'm not the full Google of every single thing. So there are certain things I still have to look up. The story that they're telling, there's a sign right inside the gate that says there's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost. There's a reason for it. 1888, a young lady died by the name of Sue Howard Hardy. We just talked about initials. Sue's initials. I wouldn't say that corny line if I haven't seen it and heard it for myself. We actually had Sue's name pop up just last night. Very, very specific. But she dies 6 days after her stillborn child. So, very sad, abrupt story, but there's a local photographer in 1987 taking pictures of our beautiful cemeteries. He's going to put a book together. As he's developing those pictures, he captures a full apparition in one of those photographs. Cannot debunk it for himself, so he sends it to Kodak. That's where we had to send pictures so we can hold them, girls, just so you know. We actually held pictures, not digital. Kodak cannot debunk this picture either, so for guys like me, it's pretty solid proof, even today. So I like to show the picture, however, the picture is cursed to females. If you handle it, even in a digital sense and format, they say you can have the same symptoms like what I told you about back at Big John's. So I'm going to show you the picture. The only thing I'll ask you is that you do not touch the picture. Pregnant females are probably not going to have a good pregnancy based on the gist of the story. I'm not going to be the guy where somebody had a great vacation and 9 months later I curse their family. So we're going to let this tour pass through because it looks like it's another one coming up because they're going to go straight up to the cemetery. I let them have it because if you guys notice too, like there's a light over the cemetery. That light is pointed directly at that sign to stop photographers from trying to recreate the photo. However, all of the cameras you guys are using penetrate right through the light and we can see everything clear as day, which is wonderful. So, I don't know which way this tour is going, but I'm going to show you guys the picture here. Just go to the next sheet.
We got translation.
Just so you guys can see the full photo, I'll go all the way down the line, so that's the full picture. The apparition is here. Those are her shoulders, the top of her head, and the baby basket next to her. And that is Sue's grave. So, again, full picture, that's what he took. And then if you zoom in, you can see her shoulders, the top of her head, and then the baby basket.
So was the baby buried with her since it was only a short amount of time?
Probably a great possibility. I mean, this was mid-1800s. So, shoulders, and then the baby basket next to her. So, again, I didn't show the picture for the first 2 years I was giving this tour just because I didn't want to do that curse, but I started doing more photo stuff with the different locations. I'm like, let's add it in. If anybody gets uncomfortable, I just won't show it. But again, it is what it is. I'm just not going to be that guy. You guys have to imagine what I do for a living, so...
I'm not big brain like you all. Apparition, what does that, is that?
So an apparition, think of the word appear. Anything that you can actually see with the naked eye or caught in a photograph can be considered an apparition. So an apparition is normally, like think of the white lady ghost, right? The very common whatever. That would be considered an apparition. Anything that appears before you. So, let's get your mindset on pirates. Before you guys are all getting sleepy on me because I had you guys sit down. So, do you guys see the burning gas lamp off in the distance past that tour group? Probably, maybe not, from where you're sitting. Kind of a flickering orange light in the distance. Anyway, that's where the pirate house is. That's where Blackbeard's men came off their ships, had basically a place to sleep, met with a few ladies, and had a few drinks. They dug a tunnel underneath the pirate house 1 block away to Dock Street Theater. The reason for that is at the time, it was Planter's Hotel. So it was a whorehouse, a playhouse, and a hotel. Okay, Pirates Whorehouse, it's obviously an attraction. The playhouse is the reason why they went there is because they would actually go backstage to work because according to London, pirates work really well with ropes and knots, and they would go work backstage in between bartering with the locals. So again, it was a place where they would actually go to work. There's a lot more that goes into the whole Blackbeard bit, but there's so much history here with pirates. Across the street at the other side of the cemetery, when you're walking by, you can see another sarcophagus. That's basically a tomb above ground, basically a cement coffin. You can actually touch it. It's that of William Rhett. William Rhett caught a pirate he was a gentleman pirate called Stede Bonnet. He was a gentleman pirate because he basically bought his way into piracy. This was not a guy that was supposed to be born into piracy. He bought his way in. So he was kind of a joke among all the other pirates. Stede and all of his men were caught by William Rhett, and then William Rhett handed them over to Chief Justice Nicholas Trott, and Trott hung all of the pirates on White Point Garden to warn off all of the pirates not to come to Charlestown. You will be hung. So that captor is across the street. I know he's on the other side of piracy, but it is still tied to the piracy, Golden Age of legends. So now that your mindset is kind of on pirates, we're going to talk about this kick-ass female pirate across the street. Now this is a lengthy story, so it's a good 5 to 6 minutes. You can keep listening. Any other words before we...
Drunk. Announce just came up. I think you actually said announce. Is it unappeared?
Okay.
Drunk.
Drunk.
Oh, that's good.
I like that one.
Gets shot, but I don't know.
This is all good stuff. And your camera, did we flip it out yet? Is it still frozen?
The battery?
Okay, no, you're good. All right, couldn't remember if I changed the battery or not. All right, let's go talk about another pirate. Let's get you guys up and moving again.
Right there.
Alright, so we heard got shot, right? I like that one. You heard drunk. And then 90 came up twice. Is that right?
Gun came up twice.
Gun. Writing in the dark is a new skill I'm putting on my resume.
You know those pins, like when you touch it,
I know,
a light
I
of
should.
pins.
Should. Because, yeah, a lot of that is like reading hieroglyphics in the morning, going, where the hell were we on this one? Alright, so we're going to be talking about the building behind you, first off. That is the gunpowder magazine. First off, those are not crosses on that building. Those are earthquake bolts. If we have another earthquake, like what we did in 1886, which we have not, they're just behind those is that they're turnbuckles. I know, you're freezing to death. So, if we have another earthquake, you can basically tighten them up slowly, and it'll straighten the building back up again. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. So, the reason I point them out is because those are the first set of earthquake bolts that we put in Charleston. Reason being is because that is the oldest government building that we have in South Carolina. So it is finished in 1713. Let's talk about its construction just a little bit because it does make sense to the story. I told you guys about the Charlestown walls earlier and how we're still inside of the original walls. This is the street where the wall came up, right past the powder magazine, and then started going south behind me towards the battery. It locked it into the corners. If it gets attacked by cannon from a pirate or any other Revolutionary War ship, it's going to have a hard time going through the walls. The walls are super thick. They're 32 inches thick. If it goes through and blows up the gunpowder, there's sand in the roof that's supposed to blow up in the air with the explosion and then fall to put out the explosion of the gunpowder.
Smart.
Another great idea that doesn't work.
I got you.
So, we had another powder magazine closer to the battery. We had an explosion. The sand went up, fell, building burned to the ground. So it no longer exists. This one's just never been attacked. It did serve in 7 different wars, including the Civil War. It was its last servant. So lots of really cool stuff with this building. The reason why we're here is because the female pirate that we're about to talk about, this building would be what I call a familiar. So it's during the same time frame, and we don't have many buildings left from that time frame. So, young lady moves here in 1708. You gotta follow me on this one, it's kind of tricky. She's here with her dad and his mistress. The mistress is her mother. You guys all with me so far? The three of them are running away from his wife. How angry was she that they got on a boat from Ireland in 1708 and ran away? So they land in Georgetown, just north of here. Mom dies pretty quickly, has to start sending the young lady down here. She's probably 9, 10 years old at this point. So she has to come down here to sell anything that they have from the plantation to keep things afloat for the family. This is why we're here. The building is familiar. So we're going to fast forward to when the building was done, 1713. 2 more years later, pirates are coming through town, 1715. Anne was kind of a badass back home in Ireland. They say she actually killed one of her servants with a knife to the belly. Like, she was pretty hardcore when she was like 6 or 7, just so you guys know. So at this time, when pirates are here, she's pretty stoked. She's going to fall in love pretty quickly. This guy's name is James Bonny. Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. So they run away to Jamaica, they get married. Anne Cormac becomes Anne Bonny, your most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. When they get down there, James is not Captain Jack Sparrow like she was hoping for, all right? He's not the drunken sailor. He's a privateer, which basically makes him a coward. He's a spy for the British. So she doesn't want this guy anymore, but he won't let her out of the marriage. So she falls in love again a few years later. Guy number 2, I'm going to keep track. Second guy she falls in love with, his name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. He is the Captain Jack Sparrow that she wanted, and he has his own ship, and she wants to be part of the crew. Girls curse pirate ships. You can't have a girl on the crew. So he makes a deal. If you dress like part of the crew, hide your gender, you can be part of the crew and be a female in my quarters. Well, let's put 2 and 2 together. She's being a female in his quarters, she's eventually going to get pregnant. You cannot have a pregnant pirate guy on the crew. Somebody's going to figure it out. So he drops her off in Cuba. Go have the baby, come back, we'll figure it out. So she has the baby, she comes back with no kid. We have no idea what happened to that baby. She's also dressed like a girl. She doesn't give a damn anymore about hiding her gender. This makes Jack pretty mad. So he just captured another pirate crew, and she's going to go flirting with basically these captives down below deck. The guy she's flirting with turns out to be a female dressed like a guy to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So now we have 2 females dressed like guys doing the exact same thing, trying to be pirates. So she convinces this young lady, whose name was Mary Reed, to become part of the crew, and now the 2 are friends. However, the British find out where they are, and they send their entire fleet of ships to come and capture 1 pirate ship. So it's Anne and Mary, the only 2 not drunk enough to come up and fight with their 1-bullet muskets against this entire fleet of ships. Well, obviously they're going to get taken against 1 ship against many. The 1 ship's going to get taken. As they're being arrested, Anne looks at Jack and she says, "You should have fought like a man instead of going down like a dog." So the judge wants to see the 2 men that fought back by themselves. He already tries and hangs Calico Jack and the men that were down below deck, too drunk to come up and fight. The 2 ladies go in front of the judge. They reveal their gender. The judge does not care that they're female. They're still pirates. They're still going to hang them. "We plead our bellies," was the last thing they said, basically claiming that they're both pregnant, and you cannot hang a pregnant woman in 1720. It is illegal. So he sends them both back to jail and delays the hanging. Dad is still here in Charleston with all of his Irish money. He bails her out, brings her back. She remarries guy number 4, because yes, we're going to count Mary Reed, has 4 kids and dies at the age of 84. That's all we know about her career after piracy. As far as Mary Reed goes, she died in a Jamaican jail in 1721, a year later from whatever pirates died from in a Jamaican jail. I'm sure it was gross and bumpy and whatever else you can think of. So, with the questions you can ask in this location, there's only 2 things that I left out for certain that I know I can prove, and that's the name of Calico Jack's ship, and that is the name of Anne Bonny's parents. So kind of keep that in mind. I told you guys at the beginning of this tour that somebody passed out at this location. Here's why. Brought my team back here, just like I had you all here. The young man next to me he goes white as a ghost, pun intended, and starts to drop. I pick him up by the armpit, I carry him over to the wall, and his boyfriend helps me. I send the boyfriend over across the street to go get a bottle of water, to go, revive this kid, and all of a sudden he comes back. I tell the story because he's feeling better. I send everybody out with their gadgets. Story's over. They pull me aside and say, "Nick, we need to tell you something." I say, "What's going on?" They said, "We are 2 transgender males." And now it makes complete sense why he passed out. 2 females dressed like males on the tour. So take that for what it's worth. Last night's incident, I can't claim that it was paranormal. Elderly gentleman, so we don't know for sure of what was going on there. There was some really high EMF at the Thinking Mansion site, so and we actually had to call paramedics. But the transgender piece, I will tell that as every time I come here because it is very relative to the story itself. For those of you with cameras, you can go to the front of the powder magazine to get some footage. I just ask that you do not interrupt the other tours that like to stop there. So just kind of like wait your turn. They don't like to be filmed either. We can explore this space. We will end in that wall, and that's probably where I'll hang out waiting for you guys to explore, ask questions, see what EMF readings we can get, if any. So you can definitely start your camera again here, Celia, if you want. The EMFs here, we don't get much. This is not the Pinkley Mansion site. If you get anything, I would like to know like immediately, so that way I know where to look on the other devices, because that means usually something else is going on as well. So listen in, ask questions. Again, be respectful. There's also, these are apartments in the back here. So it's not that we have to be super quiet, we just don't want to be super loud. So let's just kind of keep that in mind as well. So, London, lead the way.
Cool. Yes, London.
Brown-eyed girl?
Yeah.
No, this definitely would have been a green-eyed girl.
A green-eyed girl, yeah.
Definitely Irish.
I don't know if this is like a bad taste question or not, but
we should have said to him come last night.
Yeah. Yeah. So what were some of the questions we need to be asking?
What her parents' names were? Is it Anne?
And Bonnie's parents?
Do you want to go to the front or me?
I'll go away from them.
Huh?
I want to go away from them.
Yeah, I do too, so. How do you come on a ghost tour?
Get a lot of things here, or we get nothing. Just super weird. Now, you guys have been listening the whole time? Anything crazy come up that I need to know?
Nothing specific.
Okay. Again, this is a hit or miss location. So we either get a lot or we get nothing. It's just one of those places. And I hate to end things like this, but it just goes to show, like, it's a big pirate story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to end it that way. So.
It died.
It died?
Yeah. I got a little ghost picture thing. I said no battery.
You're just killing all my batteries
I know.
tonight. Hang on to the frame for me.
Okay.
Actually, let's go over to the wall. I'm layered up.
What are you doing?
I gotta have your face in the
Oh, sorry.
for contrast. Dead.
Your watch is dead? Why?
That's dead.
So what about you? Is this what you were hoping for? I know he already expressed like yes.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, I'm telling you, we love doing stuff like this. Did you tell him about when we...
Yeah, we chatted a little bit.
Oh, yeah. So, and our girls, they're 19 and 15, and they dig things like this, too.
Well, my oldest is 21.
Oh.
So London is 15. So
Gotcha. That's your oldest?
she used to go on because I've only been doing the tours for like 2.5 years, but I've been investigating for about 10.
Right.
So when she was younger, she would go on like my exploratory, because at the time I didn't have any gizmos. I was working with a psychic.
Right.
I'm a writer, so I was writing a new book, and it was going to be on him, and I was in the Myrtle Beach area. So she would go on those expeditions. Obviously London was way too small, so at the time everything was going really well, but then doors started getting slammed in our face when I said psychic. So that got kind of put on hold. The new wife, saw all of the chapters that I had written with the psychic, and she's like, you need to turn this into a blog and see what happens. So we turned it into a blog, then it took off. Like, everybody loved it. So all of a sudden, she's like, why don't you turn it into a podcast? And let's come up with a name for it. Stories in a Cemetery. I had a real job once.
What is it again?
Stories in a Cemetery.
Stories in a Cemetery. Okay.
Same thing as a tour. So when I got recruited out of my old, like my career of what I had before, he wanted to turn me into a regular ghost tour guide. I'm like, no, I work with gear and shit. Like, we gotta make this happen.
Right.
So I broke away from him after about 8 or 9 months, and I said, I can make so much more doing this on my own. It's not like I don't know how to run a business.
Right.
So here we are.
I think it's wonderful.
We're about to expand it again. We're getting a new piece of equipment in. We're waiting on it to come in from the UK.
What is it?
It's the SLS camera, which is the Stickman that you guys see on TV.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course, ticket prices have to go way up based on that piece of equipment.
Well, I mean,
it is what it is.
Exactly.
What's funny is we started this with the K2 meter and a voice recorder, charging $20 just to see if it would work. And people loved it. So we just kept expanding. I started going.
You get a lot of EVP.
I do. Disembodied, I probably get 4 to 5 pieces per year, but the stuff that comes out of what you guys are listening to, I could put clues together on that thing all night long. And when you guys see like what I'm going to give you in the morning, because I'm going to give you some markers that I find, you'll see how I put all the clues together. I think we're going to give up on yours. So I'll just hang on to it. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, wow, that's a crazy shot.
Besties.
Yeah.
Oh no!
I broke your camera.
They're just breaking everything.
I told her we're just going to give up.
I think so.
Yeah, with this one. So once they come back around, I'll get you guys the answers. And
Is Maya important?
no,
It's Maya.
not to my knowledge. I'll say that. I hate to say no right off the top, because it could be relative to someone else. But as far as this is what I do for a living.
I think it's awesome. I love it.
This is also what I went to school for, believe it or not. Like, all my degrees are in English, journalism, and I just finished my master's in creative writing. So everything, like, I have books published and shit. Like, I just write books by the date, and I take you guys ghost hunting at night. So, like, I'm doing
wonderful.
I'm doing
That's
everything that deals with storytelling.
That's
and
awesome.
Obviously, things I'm passionate about.
Right.
So,
Well, we enjoy this. I do. I totally believe there's more out there.
there is.
And
Well, arguments I have with my family, like, my folks, like, that's a whole different ballgame.
Oh, sure.
I can only imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Raised Orthodox.
There you go.
Yeah, this does not fly well with them at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it teaches, like, London gets involved with some of the, like, hey, I need you to watch this thermal video. Can you spot check it for me? I'm running behind. It teaches her, like, how to go through this stuff instead of just giggling with the girls. And she also knows, like, she knows what my spreadsheets look like to keep track of my business and my P&Ls and all that stuff. So she knows how it all works.
That's great.
So she sees, like, every morning I get up, my first cup of coffee is listening to a spirit box. Like, it's not always fun listening to a spirit box for the first cup of coffee because you're half awake.
Right.
But at the same time, she knows I was up all night uploading everything, so I didn't have to do it in the morning to save time. So she sees the time management piece as well. So, I mean, I have a separate office in the house. So, again, and it's right next to her bedroom.
Yeah.
So it's not like she doesn't hear me click
But
clacking away on the typewriter.
she's learned some life skills through what you're doing, and that's amazing.
So, now my other daughter, she hasn't seen all of this. We don't talk. That's my stepdaughter from the previous marriage. So, but she hasn't seen all of this aspect of things. All she knows is Dad used to go ghost hunting for shits and giggles. You know what I mean? And he was going to write a new book.
Right.
But the new book that I'm going to be, I still have to publish the book I finished. I just need to do one more final edit on it. And the wife does my covers. So she's the photography person. She actually designed a logo from scratch. That's what she went to school for.
That's cool, graphic design.
Yeah, so she's graphic design and photography. So whenever we get stuff weird on the cameras and shit, like, I pull her in for a second opinion. Like, hey, what do you think's going
That's
on
a great
here?
team.
Yeah.
I mean, you work well together.
You should see the book covers that she's created for me. Like, they're gorgeous.
Wow.
Absolutely gorgeous. But anyway, we got the fiction book that I just finished for school. I got to publish that, and then I think we're going to put out a reference guide for this. So, like, what types of spirits? You know, it's basically going to be a full 500 to 600 page reference guide.
Wow.
You know, and I have a co-host for the podcast, so she's already like starting to send me links and you know, some notes and stuff she's done from her investigations. So like she's working with me on it too, so she'll get credit. You know, I'm not just like, all right, thanks, and run with it. You know what I mean?
Good. I can't wait to listen.
Yeah.
I think it'll be nice.
And she's new to the mic, so you can hear her nervousness. But I mean,
well, the more she
Gotta
does
start
it, she'll get it settled in.
yeah, and it's not a perfect production.
No, none of them ever
It's
are.
not supposed to be.
Yeah,
But we're
that's
not,
the thing that makes it real.
well, the other thing that we do too is like we have notes in front of us, but we're not scripted. Like a lot of the ghost hunting
You
things
can
that I listen
tell
to,
that they're
they're
scripted.
reading.
Yes.
We don't read.
Memorizing.
Right. We don't read anything. We're just talking.
Right.
And half the time, like I don't want to know what she's researched or what she's bringing to the table. Like I want it to be a conversation like this, so that way you guys actually hear a full conversation. It's a little bit more engaging.
Right. I totally agree.
So, all right, let's go.